I think this guy, in this instance, the fellow in Rochdale, I think what he said does tip over into anti-Semitism. It's quite clear. But opposing opposing the reaction, some people say overreaction. I'm not accusing those people of being anti-Semitic, and I never have done. But what's Israel supposed to do? You cannot live next door. You cannot have that living next door to you. Yeah, we wouldn't tolerate it. The left has completely lost its moral compass, its moral clarity over the issue of Israel. I mean, this is whatever you can argue, as Danny says, you can argue about what the IDF is, its strategy it's pursuing in Gaza. You can sympathise enormously with the civilian casualties, but there is no analogy between what happened on October the 7th, when people were killed simply on the basis of their ethnicity, and what the IDF is doing, which is causing a certain number of civilian casualties in Gaza. Yeah, those people in Gaza are not being targeted on the basis of being Palestinian or being Arab or being Muslim. Yeah, whereas the people on October the 7th were targeted purely on the basis of being Jewish.
Well, can I just bring in a couple of listeners here, Robert and Hadley, because a couple of them are raising questions that I'd be interested to get your take on. Claude in Westminster says, I normally agree with Robert Crampton, but he's absolutely wrong, as being opposed to Israel's actions in response to the appalling invasion on attack on October the 7th does not make you an anti-Semite. It's time more politicians called out Netanyahu and his tactics in Gaza.
No, I didn't say that. I don't think it does make you an anti-Semite. No, I think this guy, in this instance, the fellow in Rochdale, I think what he said does tip over into anti-Semitism. It's quite clear. But opposing the reaction, some people say overreaction. I'm not accusing those people of being anti-Semitic, and I never have done. But what's Israel supposed to do? You cannot live next door. You cannot have that living next door to you. Yeah, we wouldn't tolerate it. You're talking about a very small area. If we had several million people living we're in London, in Essex, who hated us and tried to kill us and succeeded in killing 1,200 of us, there would be a response. It would be the government's duty to respond.
But what would you say? What would you say if, as David Cameron, say you talk about Essex or whatever? What if Essex was, in the words of David Cameron, however long ago, an open air prison? There'd be some people who say, look, it's obviously nothing would excuse the people of Essex launching a murderous attack on people from East London, but there'd been a long history of occupation. That would be the line some critics of your position would take, Robert.
Well, the Israeli occupation ended in 2005.
Yeah,
and the people there, the Hamas took over from the more moderate Palestinian leadership, and then proceeded to kill them. People who didn't agree with Hamas. I mean, Hamas is running essentially a sort of terrorist police state. You try criticizing Hamas in Gaza, yeah. You try being gay in Gaza, or you try talking about women's rights in Gaza, yeah? So, open air prison, it's hard to say it's an open air prison when it wasn't a very effective one. I mean, some people might say, I wouldn't necessarily be one of them, but some people might say the wall should have been higher. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
I would also add to that, to the person complaining about Netanyahu being a war criminal. Yes, of course. And in fact, the Israeli people have been protesting against Netanyahu for the past year, something the hard left did not join them in on. And no one seems to care. And still, they're basically insinuating that the Israelis have brought this on themselves, being attacked and raped and murdered and kidnapped, simply for A, living in Israel, a part of Israel that has been legally Israeli since 1948, and B, having Netanyahu as a leader when they've been protesting against him for the past year. Secondly, Hamas had been planning this attack for 2 years on Israel. Did they take any steps to protect their people? No, they did not. They then hid either in Kuwait or in Qatar or wherever they're hiding, or within Gaza City, therefore to provoke Israel to attack the people. And Netanyahu absolutely walked into that trap. And Netanyahu is also trying to extend this war for his own purposes to stay in charge, so to avoid a trial for corruption. Like, no one is saying Netanyahu is good. Most Israelis, including my cousins who all live in Israel, know Netanyahu is terrible and they have enormous sympathy for the Palestinians and what they're going through. But the fact is, as Robert says, Hamas are terrorists. It is in their original charter to commit genocide on Israel, as the Iranians have said too. Israel has never said it wants to commit genocide. What Netanyahu and his far-right government are now saying is a separate matter and is disgusting, and most Israelis disown it. So I think the different standards that some people in this country apply to Israel and Hamas is extremely revealing of where the prejudices lie.
And the point is, Hamas don't really talk very much about a Palestinian state. They talk about getting rid of Israel and extending a caliphate across that land. Yeah, Palestinian state is a staging post for in the Hamas worldview. When I saw the film of the massacre and with
the October the 7th massacre,
taken from the GoPros of the terrorists as they were going about the massacre, and I don't think I heard the word Israel or Palestine once, but I heard the word Jews a lot. Yeah, they were there to conduct a pogrom against Jews. Yeah, they weren't there to try to further the cause of a Palestinian state. Any reasonable person wants to see a Palestinian state. We've been talking about a two-state solution for since I can remember, first becoming aware of this issue in my teens. Yeah, came pretty close to it in the 90s. Came pretty close to it again in the early 2000s, and it was the militant. Not even militant, but a murderous, I would say, wing of the Palestinian cause, if you like, who rejected it, and that's at enormous cost to their own people. Enormous cost to their own people.
To be fair, it was also the militant wing of the Israelis. I mean, it was a Israeli who assassinated
Yitzhak Rabin,
and then it was Yasser Arafat after that who scuppered the Oslo Accord. So both sides, it should be said, the extremists in both the Palestinian cause and the Israeli cause are equally destructive.
Yeah, the settlers and so forth. Yeah,
because it benefits them to keep a war going. But the only thing I'd say, and I'm sure there are some listeners out there who think, yes, well, Israel has stolen land, it should belong to the Palestinians. There's this huge irony now in the far left saying that, Israel is an entirely occupied country, 75 years of occupation. The fact is, it was created because there was nowhere for Holocaust survivors to go after the war. There were still pogroms going on in Poland, where my family is from. And for centuries, since Bible times, Jews have been called wandering Jews. They didn't truly belong in this country. There were pogroms in this country when Jews were driven out and killed in Yorkshire, for example, in the Middle Ages. And finally, there's a country that's supposed to be the Jewish homeland where Jews can live. And now they're being told they can't live there too.